Okay. All right. What is it? 106. Huh? I'm going to take half an hour of your time today. Um, I'm Troy Roberts, and I guess we're going to have a little bit of a probably the shortest masterclass I've ever given in my life to adhere to these COVID restrictions of having to scrub the air in half an hour off the time I start playing. So I always like to start these things by playing a little first, and then kind of maybe attempting to explain what I did. So I'm going to play something very, very short. Run true to my method. That's a great old tune called, does anyone know that song? No? Okay, check it out. It's called Blame It On My Youth. I was just thinking about that song as I walked in here. I think the last time I played in this room, I think I played that tune. So I feel like I kind of left it in the room from the last time I played here. So I thought I would talk a little bit about my approach to learning standards. I think I know everyone's instrument in this room, so I'm kind of at an advantage here. But from the standpoint of a single note instrumentalist, I think that there's a lot to be gained from really focusing in on the nuts and bolts of a tune. Unlike piano players and guitarists, they get to play all the stuff all the time. Whereas, you know, we have to know it, sure, but we're never put in a position where we have to accompany someone or have to actually go and play all these things. So I kind of have this 7-step tune method. Sounds like some sort of an anonymous meeting, but it's something I do have written out. Perhaps I'll hand out a sheet in a minute, but this is it in a nutshell. As I said, this is going to be the fastest masterclass I've ever done. Of course, learning the melody is the first and foremost step. Then arpeggiating the chords to the 9th. I always like to go to the 9th, except for minor 7 flat 5 chords. Just in terms of voice leading, it's a little stronger. Then I like to play the roots and the 3rds and the 7ths, and make sure they connect smoothly to the 7ths and 3rds of the next chord. Does everyone know what I mean by that? Yeah, good. So a tune we can use as an example. I thought you all might know that song, but I think I'm mistaken. So how about Stella by Starlight? Everyone familiar with that? Okay, great. So my first step would be, after playing the melody, easy, right? Does that make sense to everyone? So then the next step would be to take the roots and the 3rds and 7ths. And so at this point, you're actually kind of thinking of 3 melodies. Does this make sense to everyone? So that's kind of like the DNA of any song, like the roots, the 3rds and 7ths. The roots being the most important note of the harmony. Without the root, we don't know what the quality is of. The 3rds and 7ths let us know the raw basics of the harmony, whether it's major, minor, or dominant. Okay? We're not even talking about 5s or 11s or 9s at this point. In my eyes, they're all the color tones. So the next step would be to play the melody, the roots, and one of those lines. At this point, it kind of starts to sound like a Bach etude, as Dylan and Shane know, and Jason. So then you'd remember what you did and go back and do the other line. And I think it's a good idea whenever you have an option to move a third either way, where there's a chord that doesn't quite fit in the cycle, maybe you always go up, because as you notice, these guide tones, they always fall down. So let's have a look at the other line. Does that make sense to everyone? So that's both guide tones. They're kind of like two little melodies that move throughout. And the thing is, every tune has this. Every tune is going to have these kind of like two melodies that float in and around the harmony. I also think it's really important to play bass lines. It's amazing to me how many young students I have had in the past that find it extremely difficult to construct a bass line. I'm also noticing the older I get, the more serious I take the very simple things. So theoretically, this whole process is like absolutely simple. The roots, thirds, and sevenths, not talking about outside, no extensions, no 5s, no 9s, no 11s. But if you've never done this before, it's actually really hard. If you've never played a bass line before, I encourage you to maybe even off your instrument, get in hold of a cheap electric bass or something, and Chris loves that. I implore you to make that part of your practice. Likewise with the drums, time, feel, and it's one thing to have to know about having good time and being able to play bass line, but it's a whole other level when you actually have to play the instrument and have people rely on you for strong time and time feel with the drums. Bass is particularly unique in that it's the root of every note of the harmony. It's also the pulse. So it's the driving factor in terms of it's a melody unto itself. If a bass line's not melodic, it can kind of suck, right? So melodically, harmonically, and rhythmically, the bass its value is extremely underestimated. It's certainly changed the way I play this instrument. So I could show you a bass line on the horn, but I think it's maybe a little more interesting if I show it to you on the bass. And you can really hear its roll. Let's say Stella. Form and the changes and everything. That's the power of a bass line. And if you get used to actually fulfilling that role in a band, it's just going to make you that much stronger when you're playing the horn. Same thing with learning the drums. And I also guarantee you, the more time you spend actually understanding and getting the feeling of playing the bass and the drums, it's going to change the way you hear any recording you think you know really well. You're going to start hearing the drums and the bass with that much more intent. And it's going to change the way you play in the bandstand too. It's kind of like you're learning a new language and you're able to converse better with these other instruments. So a basic drum pattern as well. Say you take the swing pattern, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the skip note. Ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. Now we'll play the triplets that aren't here over here. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Anyone done that before? Okay, cool. So that should just be a nice go-to. Right? You can play around with flipping the whole thing by a triplet, forward or back. That could change the way you play eighth notes. 2, 3, 4. You know, there's endless amount of games you can play. Actually, something I prepared earlier. I don't know if anyone wants to take these, but these are other really cool rhythms that I think are worth having down. If you have access to drums, it's even better to actually play these on the instrument and know how they feel. But if you don't, here's some things you can tap out. And this is the tune method I was just telling you about. If you feel like grabbing one, go for it. My hands are clean. So that's the basics of learning a tune, but you can take this whole thing just one step further by using it as a way to improvise with the other chord tones or scale tones added in, but keeping a rule, a restriction of possibly minimal consecutive seconds and thirds. So now we're filling out the harmony with other notes completely inside, but because we're avoiding consecutive seconds and thirds, which is scalar or arpeggiation-like, we're kind of like approaching the harmony more vertical. So, for example, Could you hear the harmony? Pretty clear, but it's really quirky, right? It's kind of jumping all over the place. So that's a way to build tension. That becomes really hard when you try to play it in time, because you're jumping around a lot, and rubato is a lot easier. So, you know, these are things that you can use to kind of dig a hole on the bandstand to push yourself in a way that you may not have thought of in the practice room. You know, to get away from things that just fall under the fingers, you know. You ever get sick of going, there's another way to approach it, okay? So you wouldn't want to play like this all the time. This is just kind of like a little extra thing you can add to your palette of what to choose from on the bandstand. But in order to just tap into it a little bit, you kind of need to go nuts with it in the practice room. So I'll attempt to play a little kind of quote-unquote regular, some language and some linear shapes, and I'll attempt to build the tension by gradually getting vertical. Yeah, this is another way to build tension without doing the stereotypical things us sax players always do, which is outside, double time, and altissimo. Yeah, let me try this. So you could all hear the form and the harmony super clear. I didn't play anything outside. I didn't play altissimo for the sake of playing altissimo, and I didn't play any double time. In fact, I was really trying to lock into that triplet feel from doing this. Yeah, are there any questions about that? I know we've got to scrub the room in like a couple of minutes, and I know we're going to have we're going to have a Q&A about, you know, general stuff, the studio, etc. But are there any questions about what I just did? I mean, I would love for you guys to take a handout. They're just over here. Yeah, sure. Yeah, please. Yep, my hands are clean, so sanitized beforehand. I've kind of worked with this method with my students a little bit, most of my students, on a few steps, but I've never actually shown you guys all this thing actually written out like a methodical thing. So it might just be nice to see it laid out and get a little more methodical about this approach. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I wanted to cover. I kind of squashed it as best I could to fit into this time frame. So if there aren't any questions, perhaps we can take the air scrubbing break. Yeah? Yeah, okay. Well, there's the melody. If you look at that sheet, there's the melody first, right? Yeah, there's like learning the pure melody. It's amazing how many people breeze over that first step. You know, learning the lyrics to a song definitely helps. You know, it'll help you with your interpretation of any tune, knowing the syllables. I think it also really helps with the meaning and the feeling of the tune, what it's supposed to be about. Yeah, it's amazing to me how many young people I see out there playing like The Way You Look Tonight or Days of Wine and Roses, like kind of medium happy tempo. If you really know the meaning of those tunes, it means something different if you were to call it at that tempo. It's kind of like a juxtaposition of what this tune actually means. You know, it's quite Days of Wine and Roses, for example, is quite a sad song. It's actually taken from the movie The Days of Wine and Roses, worth a watch. Yeah, and the other thing that's easy to breeze over is just the root movement. I strongly urge you all to get familiar with playing bass lines. You know, there's some basic rules to follow, which is like approach the next chord. I mean, play a triad or a scale to fit quarter notes to the bar, and approach the next chord by a half step below or above, or a whole step below or above. Those two little rules will give you a really simple and effective bass line. Once you get familiar with that, I also urge you to transcribe some Ray Brown, some Paul Chambers, maybe some Charlie Hayden. He's quite easy to transcribe. But those guys will show you the interesting places to break those rules and still have a really strong melodic bass line. I think the value of a strong bass line has helped me so much as a saxophone player. So I know it can help you too. Yeah. Okay. Oh, sorry, one more question.
Do you have, when you started opening up, when you started playing, you know, just linear line, feel up, start opening up, did you start off with any sort of formula to just kind of get you started?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a couple of things that usually in a 1 hour masterclass I'd go right into depth with that, but there are a few go-tos. I'm assuming you're all really familiar with the piano. Using thirds and sevenths is going to really be helpful with this. You can get through the whole form just playing thirds and sevenths. That's just thirds and sevenths. Another handy tool to have is fourth voicings on the piano. You know, that classic so what voicing? You build the minor chord fourths, yeah. So like this, for example, I don't know, on a C major. That's the fourth voicing built from the third. But that could also be, okay, so that's concert B flat major. That could also be D minor. That could be B flat major. It could also be E flat major. The sharp 11 up the top. So like if you just make it a practice, just go like know all these shapes like the back of your hand, it can help you when it comes to trying to weave through vertical. You know, like that. It's just a good shape to have on your hands, just like you could have. That's probably really easy, right? Like, make it as easy as that, and it's going to be a great tool to get you through. Of course, there are others, like on a dominant chord. Now we have the dominant chord spelt 7, 3, 13, 9, 5. So that's a cool shape. Take that around 12 keys. Good to have under your hands. Okay, I really think we need to scrub the room. So 15-minute break, and we'll be back in here for more Q&A. Thank you, everyone. How does that sound for a drummer? Great. That's good. Right. Oh, I'm sorry you had to hear my bass playing. Oh. forgot your bell cover. Sorry.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's get it after this.
Yeah, I'm gonna use that one.
That shirt, dude. That's not going on. Is it a bit too much for you? The shorts come on. Pants. Too much. If I'm matching, your shorts. Too cute.
They asked me to have this.
Take it away?
No, not to take some pictures. They wanted to see.
Oh, yeah, sure, okay.
Oh, that's cool. I don't know who's sure this is.
Oh, no, those were there for people to take,
Oh.
yeah. No, so you can take it. I think
Is it just one sheet?
I think everyone took it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just one sheet,
Okay.
and that's a different one. I don't know if I'm going to grab the other one, so that's something
Oh,
different.
this is also.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm supposed to be like master of ceremonies here for this, but I'm pretty sure this portion is opened up for questions.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
So I'll just like open question about whatever. You could just talk about whatever. Since you're gonna know a student and the teacher, like what are your plans for this app studio?
If I were to get the gig?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I think things have been working in terms of the saxophone studio. I think things have been working very well for a very long time. So
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't be throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah.
But at the same token, I will definitely be bringing in a lot of new things. And let's say widening the stylistic canvas upon which we'll all be working. Drawing from my experience playing Argentinian music, Brazilian music, Venezuelan music, Cuban music, a wide variety of small group jazz, even bigger variety of big band jazz, pop artists, working with vocalists, world music, my fusion group. I think I have a lot of scope to bring to the studio that I feel hasn't really been covered thus far.
Composition.
Huh?
Composition.
That's another thing, yeah, thank you. I feel like composition is not only a wonderful thing to explore, but I think it's necessary today. In a saturated world where the realities of making a living as a full-time sideman is kind of not existent anymore. I think we can have too many players, but we can never have too many writers. I think writing has definitely been something that set me apart. All the jazz greats I've ended up working with on the road, Joey DiFrancesco, Jeff Tane Watts, Kurt Elling, Orrin Evans, Christian McBride, they all found me because of my albums and my music. Joey DiFrancesco bought all my albums. Jeff Tane Watts came to the Zinc Bar to see my New Jive band playing and then hired me for the Vanguard. So my original projects and my writing has gained me the attention of all these greats. And it's certainly not a complaint, but I've had a very busy sideman schedule with these people, which is wonderful, but my stuff, it's always been a struggle to push my stuff as much. If I had something like this, I would relish the opportunity to kind of really focus in on my stuff, be a little more selective with my sideman schedule, and I'll be filling all those school breaks with tours with my band. Certainly plan to keep writing and recording and encouraging my students to do the same, because I know firsthand it works. Yeah. I also feel like I could benefit the studio in terms of the applicant pool. I feel like we could get a wider range of grad applicants if they knew that a prominent performing artist was here to mentor. And also, if I were to get the gig, I would plug back into the local scene here, which I very much made work when I used to live here before I moved to New York. I think if more applicants saw it working in Miami, they would not discount applying here because they would know there's a scene. I think a lot of people at the grad level think about wanting to be mentored by a prominent performing artist, as well as plugging into a scene in the city they want to live, somewhere like New York. I think I'm a shining example of someone who went to grad school here and graduated from this program, still made it work in New York with all the skills I learned here. I think, yeah, if I had this position, I feel like I would make that fact more visible to the rest of the country. Yeah.
Kind of expanding on that, within the SAC studio, but also outside of the SAC studio, do you have any ideas of like new directions that you'd like to take the broader program as well? And like any ideas of how we can like develop the relationship between like the professorial staff and the student body?
Between the what? The what?
Like the professors and adjuncts and all that stuff in the student body.
Yeah, well, one thing I know for a fact is that the program it's a group effort, and I think the team here is incredible. It's a team I'd very much be honored to be a part of. Just from the nature of the way they've run the program so far, I know that they're always open to new ideas. That's part of the reason why this program's just always been ahead of the game. I've seen this program in many iterations before. I first came here in 2002, and it just seems like the school and especially the jazz program has just been. I was telling Valerie earlier on about feeling like they were always ahead of the game. Like I remember Gary Lindsay pushing the importance of notation software before anyone kind of on the street had Sibelius, you know. And then fast forward 5 or 6 years, it's like, wow, that really is the standard. And everyone I graduated with had great skills with it. Same thing with home recording. Shelley came in and made it just expanded the scope in so many ways. Education, musicianship, technology. This school just seems to always be ahead of the game. Yeah, I'd like to think that I could contribute to that, especially the stylistic things I just mentioned. I feel like I'm pretty current with what's going on, and I would definitely expand the saxophone studio like that and hope it bleeds into everything else that I'm involved in. Maybe involved in. Yeah, in an ideal situation, we would have all played together. But, you know, COVID. I haven't even met half the students, more than half the students. There's a whole bunch of faculty I haven't met either. So it's a kind of a strange time. Yeah, I just hope you all understand that in a normal situation, we'd all be playing and getting to know each other very well. So that bleed into the other studios would be natural, would be organic. Yeah. we were talking about the importance of time. Valerie had a great analogy in the meeting this morning. It was something to do with football, but I can't remember it because I don't know anything about football. But my analogy was, a strong time feel and good time and a good time feel is like how a pilot saves your life 25 times a flight, but you never know. Until that one time they screw up and you're like, what's going on up there? You know? But what was yours again?
Oh, it was about a field goal kicker. When they kick really close to the goal, it's already a given that it's going to be, in the pocket right there where it needs to be, and that you don't really notice it unless it goes astray. And so time, our responsibility in keeping time is very much that same thing. It's a given that you will be in the pocket, but then when you're not, everybody notices. So that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a funny one. Well, the non-musician listener out there understands that too. They don't realize it's great time. They're just bobbing along and listening to what you're playing. But if you were to mess up the time feel, they'd feel it. I think us as jazz musicians, we often forget the importance of connecting with the people first. I like to keep that at the forefront. I like to reach people, make the audience feel something. They might not know why, but I like to hope that they leave feeling something, remembering a feeling about something they heard. That often gets glazed over. Jazz education. Yeah.
So in terms of traits of your studio, your students, or I guess students as a whole, but specifically two students that you would be bringing on and teaching, what are traits, not just musical like time feel, but like personality traits? What are the things that you value that you would want to be ingraining in your studio and in the students that you see every week in ensembles and lessons?
Well, definitely part of my studio would be getting a little more serious about playing bass and drums and piano, having a thorough understanding of the rhythm section. I know for a fact it's taken my playing to a whole new level, and I've seen it in some students that I've had in the past who've taken it seriously and just watched their playing change and strengthen because of it. So I think, bass and drums and piano will definitely be a stronger part of the saxophone studio. Yeah, I mean, you're already doing the right things. You took private lessons with Daphnis, right?
Yeah.
That's great. What'd you learn from that?
Oh,
You think
everything.
You think that helped your playing?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Did you?
No,
Oh,
no, I'm in his class.
oh okay.
This is what he did with him.
Yeah.
Similar.
I think that's incredibly important.
Just to add another sentence or two to that, how much would you value and stress doubling in the studio?
Doubling. Now, I feel like gone are the days of relying on a sideman career that was just about doubling. The days of making a living playing orchestra, TV orchestras, show orchestras, and Broadway, that's not the dominant market anymore. It's kind of drastically shrunk. I would certainly encourage doubling. I would also like to ensure that I always had a TA that is a strong doubler. I would make sure that any of my students who want to double would get those lessons. But I don't think it's going to be, I don't think it has been as much of a requirement. That's one thing I've seen change over the years at this school. When I first came here, doubling was a must. That was a requirement. Yeah. I think it's still really important. Anything that enhances your scope and your musicianship is great, but I'm certainly an example of someone who's made a career, built a career as not a woodwind doubler. I double on other instruments, but yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? Yeah?
Curious, do you have any thoughts on ways that we could continue to grow or evolve the ensemble program?
The ensemble program. Yeah, that's a tough one for me to answer because I've only ever dealt with my ensemble. As I was saying earlier about in normal times we would all be interacting and playing a lot more, I would see other ensembles, but I haven't even seen other ensemble directors, let alone other ensembles. It's been nice seeing your performances, all the forum performances and the hang performances, all the ensembles. It seems like there's a really great thing happening. And actually, looking back over all the years I've known this program, the ensemble themes have changed drastically. I think that's something that we should definitely be working with the students really closely to gain their interests and kind of form themes for ensembles equally based on their interests as well as what we think is beneficial. Yeah, it's funny. At my undergrad in Australia, the ensemble themes, no, they weren't themes. Every ensemble would learn 5 tunes every 5 weeks. So by the end of the semester, you'd have 15 new tunes, but every ensemble would learn the same ones, and they'd hone in on them. And every 5 weeks, there would be like a kind of what you guys call a jury, an ensemble jury every 5 weeks. And every ensemble would get up and play. The panel could ask one of those 5 tunes for each ensemble in that year. And it was great to just hear like everyone's different take on these same tunes. But you end up graduating from a 4-year course learning, with a big list of tunes you know really well. When I first came to this school, the ensemble themes were like, let me see if I remember this correctly. There was blues ensemble, Blakey ensemble, classic Miles, ECM, Blue Note. What was there? There was always Funk Fusion. They've kind of changed over the years. I've seen some really modern things like, there's a Roy Hargrave ensemble now, right? I mean, that's a sign to me that the current times are always being considered when these decisions are made. So I like to think those things will keep evolving. I mean, what would you as students like to see in terms of the ensemble program?
Yeah, I think just like more student input and like freedom with the music that we're playing and the music that we're able to pursue. Obviously, like the professors know what's up and know what we need to be learning, but yeah, I'd love more student input just on like where we can go with what ensembles.
Do you as students feel free to express those? Do you feel like you get heard when you express these kinds of things?
Yeah, yes and no. I feel like our studio teachers sometimes will listen to us, but the kind of stops there sometimes, maybe.
I know I think part of the issue is because of our scheduling.
Yeah.
So like we're forced kind of to be in certain ensembles based on what's available. But like personally, like I've requested ensembles in the past. Obviously they're great ensembles. I've never gotten any of the ones I've requested, but it's also it's kind of based on scheduling. I've never been like super enthusiastic about the ensembles I've gotten. So it's almost like you have no say, and it's like it's the day where you find out your ensembles, and then like you're like, oh wow, like this is something I never would have expected. Or like I came here this semester like super excited to like just like play some swing and like stuff, and like I'm in octet and R&B ensemble, which yeah, it's a great learning experience with stuff that like is not my strong suit. But like they don't always line up with what you're like super excited to be doing. Yeah. So that would be an awesome thing to like have more input. I think some of the other studios have. There's some studios, I think maybe saxophone studio, bass studio, where like you're allowed to choose, like right, like you have some say.
Yep.
I don't know if it's like that for upperclassmen trumpet players, maybe, but yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot of the studios have any say at all.
Interesting.
So I think that would be cool.
Yeah, I must also, in defense, say that it's incredibly hard.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
I mean, assigning all of these people to an ensemble, and then also, you know, you have your ideas, and then you try to cater to everyone's request, and then there's scheduling conflicts. There's things that are not possible, and it turns out too many people have requested one thing. It's like that's just not where, you know. There's a lot of things to juggle. Also, I know from all the time that I've spent in school, there's always there's a lesson to learn from anything. Actually, this goes way beyond being in school. This goes to the professional world too. Yeah. You'll always get called for a job you don't want to do. There will always be some gig that you never would have wanted to do, but you got called and it pays, you got to go do it. You got to go do a good job. Yeah. So school is a great chance to exercise delivering, doing a good job no matter what the task is. I mean, even if that means like you've been given an assignment, you're not really into it, or you don't see how it's going to benefit you. There's worth in like doing an excellent job at that and completing the task. I had one student when I was adjunct here years ago. I assigned him a Ben Webster solo because, you know, we were really talking about air and the sound, the expression, the way vibrato is used, all those things, all those aesthetics to the core of the sound. And he came in 2 weeks later and had this solo, what was it? Bye Bye Blackbird from the Ben Webster and Oscar Peterson album. Great album. And he had it down. Like, he sounded just like Ben Webster. I mean, very, very close. I was like, man, that's awesome. That's great. Awesome job. So what'd you get out of that? Did you enjoy that? And he was like, no, it sucks. I hate Ben Webster. I was like, what? He said, yeah, that sucked. I hate it. Sounds just too much air in the sound, and it's just like really woofy and no actual note. It's like, yeah, I'd never want to play like that. And I was kind of like, wow, but it just made me realize, like, that kind of work ethic, like he went all out to do this right. And that kind of work ethic, I've seen his career. It's gotten him somewhere. You know, he's more of a recording engineer now. Really meticulous. I'm sure he's in the professional world now recording bands that he probably hates the music, but does an excellent job. You know. Huh? Ben Webster tribute bands. Ben Webster saxophone quartets. Yeah. So yeah, I think as students, there's always something to be learned in the background. Maybe that's something to keep in mind while you continue to express your concerns. Well, I think we might be done, huh? Okay, so in the effort to not leave anything to assumption, I got a bunch of CDs here. probably don't have CD players, but if you're like me and still like to collect and look at liner notes and see where things are recorded and what dates and look at photos, yeah, first come, first serve. There's 3 little piles here for the first 3 lucky contenders. Okay. There we go, look at that. Seagulls. Cool. All right, thank you all so much for coming along. Appreciate it, it was fun for me. Hey Valerie, good to see you in person.